What is up, everybody? Welcome back into another episode of DEADBIRDS Discussion. I am your host, Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, joined by my co-host, Braden Dowers, or as his screen name would suggest, Deadbirds Suck, because he wants you all to know that the Cardinals still suck and that he is not convinced by this 8-2, or we should say 8-3 run after tonight. But we're going to get into all kinds of stuff. There's been a lot of development with this Cardinals team over the last few weeks, over the last few series. We're going to break it all down for you guys, all the top storylines. But let's start with this, Braden. The Cardinals, as I said, are 8-3 over their last, 9, 10, 11 games. So this is a huge step forward, huge step in the right direction. The last time we had an episode, the Cardinals still were struggling. Things were looking like they had hit rock bottom, quite honestly, and it was not looking good. They're double-digit games below 500, and now they're trying to claw their way back a little bit. And even with this recent success, they're still 7 games below 500, which just goes to show you how deep of a hole they kind of dug themselves into to start the season. But I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, I I kind of let everyone know that you wanted everyone else to know that uh, the Deadbirds aren't really in the clear yet. So, I mean, what are your thoughts?
Uh, yeah, like you said, they're 21 and 28 right now, and they're still 7 games under 500. We're third in the division, and I think that we're 4 or 5 games back of the Pirates and the Brewers. So I know the Brewers got their ass kicked by the Astros tonight, and I think that the Pirates won. So I think that we're 6 games back now. But that just shows, like you said, how much of a hole that we dug ourselves into earlier this year. And while yes, we won 8-2 and we won 3 out of 4 against the Dodgers, and we swept the Red Sox and we only lost one to the Brewers, I'm not convinced with this team still. I know that I said that they needed to go 6-4 over the last 10, and if you told me, hey, they'll go 8-2, I'd say great. And it is great. It is good to see them win. And we have a couple bats clicking. Nolan Gorman looks like one of the best hitters in the National League right now. And Paul DeJong tonight hit another 3-run homer. He has 8 on the year, and his average is still right around like 360. And
Mm-hmm.
he has over 100 plate appearances. That I mean, I don't think it's
Not a fluke anymore.
no, it's not the normal DeJong gets called back up, has a good 2 or 3 games, and then he goes back to being ass. It's like, no, DeJong might be like genuinely just a really good baseball
He might have
player
found
again.
his stride again.
Like he genuinely just looks pretty damn good. Tommy Edman's doing good as always. I love Tommy Edman. Uh, but the main reason why I'm not convinced about this team, and I'll let you get into it mainly with the Red Sox series,
Sure.
is Alex Cora managed that series so terribly by putting in Kenley Jansen the second game of that series. We couldn't hit off a Chris Sale at all when we usually destroy left-handed pitchers. And then the third game of the series, also Wainwright was fucking horrible. And then the third game of the series, we got to go up against Corey Kluber, which again, I'll let you go through most of that. But there were some just absolutely boneheaded, horrible decisions made by the Red Sox that just gifted us wins, specifically
Yeah.
in both of those blown saves against Kenley Jansen. And mainly the second one, we wouldn't have won that game if literally anybody else came in to pitch the ninth inning besides Jansen, who had blown the save the night before on like 34 pitches. It made zero sense for him to come back out there. We should have lost at least one of those games. Then the Brewers series. The Brewers series was good for the most part. Matthew Liberatore had a great start. Going to talk about him in a little bit and how Oliver Marmol fucked him up and is God, it's so dumb. Montgomery had an okay start, but he allowed those home runs on back-to-back pitches, and that kind of screwed us. We couldn't get any hits. We killed Corbin Burns. We scored we won like 18-1, and Andrew Kisner hit a Mickey Mouse grand slam in the 8th inning. And then
Mickey Mouse.
The Dodgers series is one I want to really focus on.
Yeah.
Because we won 3 out of 4 and we look good. I'll preface this. The offense looked good. The pitching was fucking horrible. Like, the starting pitching of this team is not improving at all. Wainwright gave up a shit ton of runs. I mean, we were up 9-2 at one point, and then they got it back within 9-8 after a Freddie Freeman grand slam because of fucking Wainwright. And then we just lose our fucking minds in the 9th inning, and then we made it 16-8 and we won. That game made no sense. I tweeted it. I'm like, this team's a social experiment. They're just seeing how much we can take. This is just complete bullshit. What the hell is this team? Because it doesn't make any sense, and it's a joke for them to pull off something like that. Wilson Contreras was great that game. Also, Max Muncy saying that Contreras bullied the umpires when the umpires were consistently horrible for both sides that series. And then the second game, Steven Matz was horrible per usual. I don't know why Matthew Liberatore isn't fucking starting over him when he pitched 5 really good innings against the Brewers. And then the third game of the series we won as well. I don't remember too much from that game. They all kind of clumped together. I just remember we won. Oh yeah, we won. I think it was 3-2, and Gallegos got a call on the outside corner that should have been ball 4 to Mookie Betts, but he got the call. And then the fourth game of the series, we just kind of kicked the shit out of them. And then we used Matthew Liberatore in the 8th inning, and he gave up a run because why the hell is Liberatore being used out of the bullpen? I wasn't a fan of it, but the fact that he didn't go 2 innings is insane. It made zero. Like, why is Liberatore being used out of the bullpen?
Well, and on top of that, as you said, during that series, they were just running through relievers just because I guess Marmol felt like he could or he wanted to do that.
They were running through relievers because they didn't have anybody that could fucking pitch. Like, none of the starters went deep into games. Michaelis did okay.
Yeah, Michaelis is actually recovered pretty well from having a rough start this year. I think you mentioned that last time, but that's still kind of the case even now. But even he, because one of our main gripes with this Cardinals team still is the starting pitching is still a major
and
issue.
It wasn't a 3-2 win; it was a 6-5 win. Michaelis went 7 innings and gave up a 3-run homer in the 6th inning. I remember that game now. But then we just came back, and it was a good game, and that was our best start. But Michaelis still allowed 3 runs.
Yeah,
And Matz was horrible. Wainwright was horrible. Wainwright hasn't had a good start yet. And then Flaherty's start was confusing because after watching him in that Milwaukee game, like that's the best that we've seen Jack Flaherty since 2019.
mm-hmm.
But the Dodgers game, he was cruising through 3 innings, and then he got to the 4th inning, and he had a couple road bumps, and then he went into the 5th inning, and then it all just kind of broke down. We were up, I think, 4-1 at that point, and then it became 4-3 because he just couldn't find the strike zone. And there was a couple calls that fucked him over by the umpires that kept the inning going. And I do think there was one call, I think it was on Muncy. If it goes a different way, then Flaherty probably gets through the 5th inning, maybe goes back out there for the 6th, and he only allows 1 run. And that looks like a significantly better start than what was given. But with the umpires being consistently horrible for both sides in that series, I don't really you play with what you got is kind of the mindset that you got to have there. But the starting pitching's not good still.
No.
saw that tonight. Everybody says that
Well,
Montgomery's our most consistent starter. He's been one of our only good starters. He has a 4.55 ERA and got his ass kicked by the fucking Reds. He went 4 innings and allowed 4 runs to them. Why do Cardinals fans keep saying that he's our most consistent starter? But what, most consistently meh to below average? Like, what the fuck? Like, no.
you said we talked about it before we started, but what was the Cardinals' average for their entire pitching staff, and then what's the league average?
I think the league average is 4.34 or something like, for starters. I think is 4.34 or something like that. And then I think the Cardinals is it's like 4.89, I think, right now. That's not playable. And
Yeah.
the main reason why I'm not impressed by all of this is because our pitching was horrible against the Dodgers. It was horrible. That's not going to play in October. When we get to October, we're not going to be able to get 16 runs in a Julio Urias start. That's not going to happen. Our offense isn't going to go that off in a October game. No offense ever goes off that much in a game in October. Offense takes a drastic decrease in October. And our pitchers cannot, they can't match what other teams' pitching staffs do, because pitching is what wins you games in October. You need good pitching. We do not have good pitching. We're not going to be able to just offense our way through October. Our offense isn't going to be able to carry us that far. It might get us that far, and I think that we probably will make the playoffs with what we have right now. But if we don't start Liberatore over Matz, and we don't trade for somebody like Dylan Cease or Shane Bieber at the deadline and get rid of Tyler O'Neill, then I have zero confidence in this team still, because we have shown time and time again that our pitching staff cannot compete against top-ended talent.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm going to talk about the Red Sox series real quick to get my perspective on that. So, obviously, Cardinals sweat the Red Sox. Cardinals fans are going crazy. They're like, oh my God, we're winning again. We sweat the Red Sox. And now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people on the Red Sox side going, how the hell did we get swept by the St. Louis Cardinals? But the Red Sox have been, I want to say, a disaster, because, I mean, they technically have a winning record, but the fan base is frustrated. They're fed up with the GM. They should be way better than this. The front office and ownership sold this team as a team that could be a winning team. They're last place in the AL East, which, just to put things into perspective for Cardinals fans, the Red Sox are 22-18. I believe they were like 4 games above 500, even after being swept by the Cardinals. And even that was good enough for last place in the AL East. The Cardinals are a team that was 10 games below 500, and they're last in the NL Central. That just goes to show you how competitive the AL East is this year. And just right now, Tampa Bay Rays are really carrying that division, if I'm being honest, but I can't pretend like they're not in the division. And the Red Sox also contributed to the Rays having such a great start, because they got swept by the Rays at the beginning of the season. But anyway, back to this Cardinal series. I said a few episodes ago that I could see this series going either way. I could see the Red Sox getting swept by the Cardinals. I could see the Red Sox sweeping the Cardinals. Anything can happen, because the Red Sox are another team that's very similar to the Cardinals. They can get hot. They can get cold. Their starting pitching is also terrible. Their offense, is on and off. But this series was just a disaster for the Red Sox. First of all, as you said, Cora managed it terribly. I've been disappointed by Alex Cora this year. He had been under a lot of flack by Red Sox fans, but I always thought it was unfair for the most part. I just think Shane Bloom, the GM, has not given this team much to work with. And we're talking about, a guy that won us a World Series in 2018, had us on the brink of another World Series the year he came back after being reinstated as manager, with a team that I really thought overachieved. But besides the point, he pitched Kenley Jansen 3 times in 4 days after he got his 400th save. And I thought that was a huge mistake. That led to a loss. They got nothing out of a fantastic Chris Sale start, and Chris Sale's actually been really good. He's starting to look like old Chris Sale again. Like he's consistently striking out batters, pitching plenty of innings. I've been impressed by him. He finally seems to be getting healthy again, but the offense didn't show up in that 4-3 loss. And then they blew the third game, the one that ended up in a sweep. But that was the Corey Kluber start. And I'll just have you know that if you think the Cardinals starting pitchers are bad, go watch a Corey Kluber start this year. And honestly, if you haven't seen one, you might have missed your shot, because I would not be surprised if he was DFA'd. He actually had a start yesterday in which he was awful again. Corey Kluber, this is the worst pitcher I've seen for the Red Sox in a long time. So he has a 6.26 ERA. In 41 and about 41 innings pitched, he has allowed 29 earned runs. He has 34 strikeouts. He's completely washed. And I'm honestly upset that they didn't try harder to bring back Michael Wacha, who isn't great, but was a pleasant surprise for them last year. And, he can at least give you a good start, probably every other start. Corey Kluber, you're not getting that at all from him. I mean, the guy just needs to be a DFA. Horrible acquisition by Shane Bloom. And then, honestly, the first game of that series was kind of a blur. I believe Kenley Jansen also pitched in that one, though.
Yeah, he blew it. That was the James Paxton start.
Yeah, and James Paxton actually had a good start in that game, too. And then Kenley came in and blew it. So, just a disaster of the series for the Red Sox. And this has kind of been the story of the Red Sox all year long. If I was a Cardinals fan, I would not be impressed by sweeping the Red Sox. I mean, yeah, it's a team you should beat, and that's a bar that the Cardinals were not clearing for most of this year, was beating the teams that they were supposed to, but I don't think you should be taking a victory lap over sweeping the Boston Red Sox.
No, definitely not. I agree with you, mainly because I know more about the Red Sox with talking to you a bunch, but like you said, beating washed up Corey Kluber is not impressive.
He's genuinely one of the worst pitchers I've seen in a long time for the Red Sox. A long time. And our starting rotation has not exactly been a strong suit as of recently. I mean, but at least we do have one thing on the Cardinals. We have a legit ace, Chris Sale. Okay. Mm-hmm. Chris Sale is not the old Chris Sale, but I know Cardinals fans would take him. And you know what? Maybe we're sellers at the deadline. Maybe the Cardinals could get Chris Sale. I don't know. But yeah, starting pitching is a hot topic for both of our teams.
I mean, in that Brewers series, just transitioning into that, the first game we won 18-1. Freddie Peralta was horrible. We always own Freddie Peralta. So Cardinals fans saying that, oh, we're back after winning that game, stop. We always own him. Flaherty, that was probably the best starting pitching performance of the season by anybody. He went like 7 innings with 10 strikeouts. He was cruising. He dominated, was great. And then his last start against the Dodgers wasn't great. I already talked about that, though. Second game, Montgomery didn't go too far. Gave up 3 runs, and then we lost 3-2. The offense didn't really do anything, and then we beat them in the third game of the series. I think that was
3-0.
In that game.
Sorry, what was that?
Who pitched in that game?
Let me double check.
That was on Wednesday.
That was the Liberatore start.
But yes, that was the Liberatore start. Yeah, and he basically outdo Corbin Burns. So
yeah, he had 6 strikeouts, went 5 innings, pretty solid.
I forgot. I wanted to mention this as well. The offense was not very good at situational hitting in that game. And there was a couple times against the Dodgers where we had a bunch of runners on and we just couldn't bring them in. But I remember specifically that Liberatore start. there was a lot of times where we had the bases loaded in the bottom of the fourth inning with nobody out and we couldn't get them in. And like just doing shit like that is infuriating. And we did it so much earlier this year, and to see it still happening is not good.
Well, the Liberatore start was good. We were all wanting to see it. He looked really good. Again, went 5 innings, 6 strikeouts, held the Mets, not the Mets, the Brewers scoreless. And I know you always joke. I mean, you'd said this when you were ranting earlier this year and talking about the pitchers that the Cardinals could have had or that they did have, and how the Cardinals would have just made them bullpen pitchers. And then we see immediately after the Liberatore start that the Cardinals are moving Liberatore to the bullpen.
I don't know how long it's going to be, but the fact that he's even coming out, it makes no sense that he's
it's just a
coming out
joke
of the bullpen.
because it's finally someone that adds juice to your starting rotation, and you're going to move him to the bullpen. Why?
I mean, that Brewers series was by far our best starting pitch. Like, that was by far the best that our starting pitching has been all year, was against the Brewers. Flaherty was dominant. Montgomery was fine. And then Liberatore was great as well.
Yeah.
And for them to just be like, now we're going to give you 1 inning against the Dodgers. We're not even going to use you in long relief. We're going to throw Genesis Cabrera out there when we're already kicking the shit out of them. Why?
Yeah, that was
it
dumb.
was.
But in that game, that game was also where Gallegos came in the later innings. He went 1 inning, but he had 3 strikeouts. And he got pulled out like very early in the next inning. But he went about 1 inning, got 3 strikeouts. And Helsley closed it out, I believe. Or maybe he was before. You might remember that better than I do. But it was just an overall solid pitching game led by Matthew Liberatore. And he was a big part of, I guess, I don't want to say improvement because I don't think it's sustained. But I guess pitching improvement in that series. So,
yeah. And it's a pretty popular take among Cardinals fans that the inning that Liberatore got against the Dodgers when we were kicking the shit out of them on Sunday, that should have been Steven Matz.
Yeah.
That
like
should
a
be
little
Steven
bit of
Matz spot.
Yeah.
Not Liberatore.
Kind of like a rehab kind of stint instead of, starting him, because he probably shouldn't be a starting pitcher. You have Liberatore for that now. So go ahead and use him.
We want to start Matz because we pay him, but we don't pay Liberatore. It's fucking dumb. Team's annoying.
Yeah. Now, moving on to the Dodgers series. And this one, if you want to say the Cardinals are turning it around, the Cardinals are back, and you can point to this Dodgers series as your example for that, because this one, like, I can agree with you. Now, I don't think the Cardinals are back. You don't think the Cardinals are back. I think we're on the same page there. But for those of you that do think that, the Dodgers series is the one you want to point to when making your case, because the Dodgers are 29-17. They are a top team in the NL still. And these are the kind of teams that I wanted to see how the Cardinals compare to them, how they're competing with them. And just, you need to show that you're closing the gap somewhat. And I don't know if this series will mean that. Maybe by the time we get to October, this series means nothing in the regular season, but this is a step in the right direction, definitely for the Cardinals, because in a lot of the series against the top teams in the NL, the Cardinals tend to look overmatched. But in this one, they not only took 3 or 4 from the Dodgers, but they kicked their ass for the most part. I know they had the 5-0 loss, but it was rather a dominant series by the Cardinals.
Yeah, for sure. We already kind of went over it, but they were up 9-2, and then the Dodgers came back, and then we went berserk and won 16-8 because Wilson Contreras hit 2 3-run homers. Wainwright was not good in that game, but the offense in that series was insane. And I think that's mainly because most of the Dodgers starting pitching is hurt. Julio Urias and Clayton Kershaw are the only 2 starters from opening day that are still in the rotation. So I I'm not moved by us beating up on the Dodgers' 6th and 7th starters, or maybe even worse than that. I don't even remember who pitched in the Tuesday or in the Friday and Saturday game, but
I can tell
like
you real
that
quick.
Saturday game with Michaelis on the mound and how we fought back, that was a good win for sure.
Friday was Gonsolin. He went 5
okay.
innings, 3 strikeouts. Saturday was Syndergaard.
Yes. Never mind. That wasn't a good win. Barely beating Noah Syndergaard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Syndergaard
Isn't good.
No, he's not. But with a pitcher like Syndergaard, though, there's going to be some moments where it's like, oh yeah, Noah Syndergaard. Oh my God, he's having a good game. I mean, like, I get like even like in the NBA, for example, there's always the teams with like, okay, I'm a Celtics fan. I've said this on here before. There's always a point guard, let's just say, for another team who's like some bum point guard washed, like Kyle Lowry, for example. Kyle Lowry, he's washed, but you know what? He just goes off against the Celtics, and then he shows your vintage Kyle Lowry moments. And I feel like Syndergaard is one of those pitchers that, he was once really good, and every once in a while he can give you a good start. But yeah, for the most part, he's terrible. But there's some, he'll still give you a vintage Syndergaard moment here or there. I know he struggled with injuries too.
Yeah. But the offense was great the entire series outside of getting shut out and Matt's start. Winning 16-8. I think we scored 7 runs, and then I think we scored 9 runs. So scoring that many runs against Dodgers starting pitching, you got to be happy with that. And then I guess just recapping tonight, only scoring 5 runs in 6 innings or in 10 innings against the Reds is not good, especially when you're just battling the entire time. And Paul DeJong is one of your only sources of offense because he had a 3-run homer and then he hit a double, so he accounted for 4 of the runs. So our offense is currently relying on Paul DeJong, which, like we said, maybe it's not a fluke, but you always have to realize that, or you always have the thought in the back of your head, like, okay, when's DeJong going to cool off? Because even the pace that he's playing at right now, it's like that's not sustainable for anybody. So he's going to come back down to earth at least a little bit. And even when that happens, then what's going to happen? Because Arenado stepped up. He hit a lot. He had a home run in 5 straight games, and then 6 or 7 or 7 to 8 or something like that. So he really popped off. And then Nolan Gorman, who I wanted to highlight, God love him. He is such a good baseball player, because in that 7-6 win over the Dodgers, they intentionally walked Goldschmidt to get to him, and then he just hits the ever-loving piss out of the ball and spikes his bat, pimps the hell out of it. I mean, that is probably the most defining moment for the Cardinals this year. And just props to Nolan Gorman for being as good as he's been, especially since he's only 22. So, yeah.
I feel like with Arenado's case, as more guys in the lineup have stepped up, we've seen Contreras kind of come back. DeJong obviously been on fire. Gorman, now that he has more kind of offensive help, there's less pressure on him, and I feel like that's been a good thing for him. Yeah. And you're seeing him start to relax a little bit and go back to being the Arenado.
He doesn't feel like he needs to be the hero.
Yeah, and he's not pressing so much to, save this team, but it's a really nice thing to see for him. And I think the DeJong is a really interesting case, really interesting storyline. You said, there's always that thought in the back of your head, at some point, this has got to stop, right? But what if it doesn't? Because that adds an entirely new element that the Cardinals didn't have before, and a lot of fans didn't know that they had. This is a huge deal. Like, what if DeJong is like this for the rest of the year?
If DeJong is like this until July, You have to consider trading Tommy Edman, or not even consider. I think you just have to. And I have a Tommy Edman jersey, but if DeJong keeps playing like this, then Tommy Edman is expendable, especially with Mason Wynn
Yeah.
in the pipeline. Because you can trade Tommy Edman, who's one of the best defensive shortstops, and is going to, exactly what his bat's going to be. It's going to be 11 or 12 home runs with 60 RBIs and 20 stolen bases and a 320 on base percentage and like a 700 OPS. That is Tommy Edman. That is what you're going to get. You're going to get that and one of the best gloves in baseball.
Yeah, but I mean, if
Yeah.
DeJong, I'm just going to continue on this real quick. If DeJong continues playing like this, like that is just a huge bonus, huge bonus that you didn't know you had. And I mean, what is he up to 8 home runs already this
Yeah.
year? And I just, it's really crazy what he's been able to do in a short
I
amount
mean,
of
if you
time since
have
being
Newt
brought back
Bar,
up.
if you have Newt Bar in center, then you have Goldie, then you got Gorman, then you have Arenado, then you have Contreras, then you have DeJong. Like, that is 6 really good bats at the top of your lineup. Then you just got to sub in guys like Yepes, Donovan, Tommy. I think I said Donovan. Fucking Oscar Mercado, who has come onto the scene. He had 5 RBIs against the Dodgers. Was the only 9-hole hitter in Cardinals history to have 5 RBIs since Bob Gibson. And there was another really good pitcher that we used to have that had 5 RBIs in a game. But I mean, he's the first position player to have 5 RBIs out of the 9-hole for the Cardinals. So props to Oscar Mercado. Formerly, was with our organization a long time ago. Then he went to the Guardians and was okay there for a couple of years, and now he's back. And I mean, dude has just been mashing. But we gotta, with those final 3 spots in the lineup, you just have to find a couple places for guys to play. And with how many damn players that we have that can play in those final 3 spots, you got to trade some away. So that kind of segues me into one of the things that we had on the list, trading away Tyler O'Neill.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up next and kind of transition into that.
Yeah.
So, like you talk about the expendability of some players now with other guys stepping up and just kind of some of the depth that the Cardinals have. The trade deadline will be in a couple of months. So, Tyler O'Neill, he's a big name that he's been talked about in trade rumors for years now. Just as a guy that could be traded and another team could value. But I feel like there's a lot more than him that you could even consider in a trade now with some of the development from this season. But who who could the Cardinals potentially target, and who would be involved in a deal? And again, O'Neill is one of them, but what do you expect around the trade deadline? And I know you said that uh, you wouldn't be optimistic about this team unless they address starting pitching in a significant way at the trade deadline. Then maybe you could see this team making a run. But what would that have to look like for you to be like, okay, I take this team seriously now?
I think that they have to go out and get one of the pitchers from the White Sox, whether it be Cease or Giolito, preferably Cease, because I don't believe in Giolito anymore. I don't. He had like 1.5 good years. But my biggest name that I am circling, and I have always wanted him on this team, is Shane Bieber. And the Guardians aren't doing great right now, and they're definitely not going to pay Bieber when he's a free agent. And I think he's either a free agent at the end of this year or next year. If we can go out and get him, then I don't care what it costs. They need a power bat. Give them O'Neill. Give them O'Neill. Give them, I mean, it depends on what other prospects they want. But if they want a power bat, give them Tyler O'Neill. Give them Moises Gomez. Give them one of our starting pitchers in the minors. Not Graceffo, hence McGreevy or Jerpy. Like those 4, don't give them one of our top 4 starting pitching prospects, but give them somebody, because the Guardians always make starting pitchers into fucking monsters. But I definitely think that
Corey
there's
Kluber.
a trade. Yeah. I definitely think that there's a trade that could happen there. I don't know how realistic it is because if the Guardian season continues to be as disappointing as it has been for them right now, and the Cardinals do get back on track and they are buyers at the deadline, I could definitely see them going after a piece like Shane Bieber. And then best case scenario, our pitching staff is Bieber, Liberatore, Flaherty, Michaelis, and then Montgomery at the 5, and then tell Wainwright go to the bullpen. And that 5, that is a good 5. If Jordan Montgomery is your number 5 starter, you are in a very good spot. And then having Michaelis, Flaherty, and Liberatore in whatever order, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah,
and I would be extremely happy with having Michaelis as the 2.
Yeah, with Michaelis's improvements, or his bouncing back after a rough start, injecting Liberatore into this rotation and just adding a solid guy, all of a sudden you're looking at a pretty solid pitching staff that honestly you might not still feel great about, still might not get you out of the first round of the playoffs, but maybe, just maybe. But that's something you can't say about this current starting rotation. So at least you couldn't. I mean, it's still, I don't know if it would make up for Mo and the way he addressed the starting pitching this past offseason and the whole
there really wasn't
thing.
much to do in the offseason.
Well, and that's what most kind of said, or I don't know if most said that, but I know that was kind of the general response.
Oh, yeah,
from fans.
I sent you the thing that the conversation that I had with Brandon Kinley from ESPN.
Well,
where he said that he agreed with them because all the starting pitchers that were available were either hurt or doing really bad, which is true. And I don't necessarily hate not signing anybody from last offseason, but to not do anything at all and just stick with your guys is.
Well, then there's Jose Quintana, who I know you really wanted back. I know he was hurt to start the year.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he signed a very team-friendly deal with the Mets.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I know Mo. The thing that irked me when he spoke to the media is he was like, oh, we didn't really think starting pitching was that big of an issue. Maybe that's a little bit of a strategic failure. And it's like, yeah, you think? Like, everyone could see it but you. I don't know. Stuff like that just frustrates me. But let's talk about the next few weeks and what they look like for the Cardinals. So they played their first game with the Reds, or against the Reds tonight, and we kind of bunched that in with everything else. But they have 3 more games against the Reds. This is a series that they need to win. The Cardinals need to keep chugging along. They need to keep racking up wins, and this is a very favorable stretch in the schedule. They play the Reds. They play the under 500 Guardians. They play the Kansas City Royals, who are god-awful. They need to win both of those games. They play the Pirates, who
back down to earth.
Yeah, but you need to win 2 out of 3 probably. Then you play the Rangers, then the Reds again, then the Giants. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but you need to start racking up wins. This is the stretch in the schedule to do it.
Yeah. I'd say like the only tough opponent where you could lose a series to and be like, okay, fine, whatever, is the Rangers. And even then, that's a team that you really should beat if you want to be competitive in October, because if you can't beat the Rangers in a series, then you're not going to be able to beat whatever wild card team we face, because we're not getting in as a wild card. We'll get in as winning the Central because nobody else from that division is going to make it. It's going to be us or the Brewers.
Right. Yeah, and this is the time to start making up ground. This is the time to start racking up wins.
And I'm not like whoever they beat isn't going to change my perspective on the team, because these are teams that you have to beat. You should beat them. Beating them is expected. It's not like, yeah, we had a really hard fought win against the Reds. Good night tonight, guys. Like, no, you have to beat them. So what were the series up until the Rangers series?
Reds, Guardians, Royals in a 2-game series, Pirates, Rangers, then Reds again.
Yeah, so like in that stretch, you can lose maybe 4 or 5 games. You got to go like 10-5 over those 15.
Yeah, and that'll just and if they go 10-5, which I don't want to say is best case scenario, but I don't want to place too big of expectations on them just because of what happened in the last few series. So we'll say 10-5, and if they do that,
It's okay. I just counted. It's 14 games. They already lost tonight. So let's say 10-4. You only can lose 3 more games.
and what I was going to say is if they do that, that'll just barely get them out of the hole. That'll place them, just above 500.
Yeah, that'll put them right at 500, and then you have a couple more competitive matchups.
Yeah, because then after that, it gets a little bit tougher again. They play the Mets, who have, I think, won 5 straight. I don't know if they played tonight. Might not be 5 straight anymore, but they're getting better. Nationals, Astros, Yankees. You start playing some American League teams. Those are going to be tough. Marlins, White Sox, Nationals again. So,
Yeah, our only
yeah.
the Nationals 2 times in a row. I don't really know if there's a good point to do another episode.
Well, let's say this. So there's the Reds series, the Guardian series, and then there's the Royals. If they lose both of those Royals games, we'll get on. But if not, we'll wait till after the Pirates.
Okay.
But I think that's a good stopping point. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up. I mean, look, guys, the Cardinals, they're chugging along right now. They're making progress. We'll see if it holds up. We're still skeptical, but we'd like to hear from you what your thoughts are on this team. Are you bought back in? If so, let us know. Let us know if you disagree with us. Love to hear from you guys. But that's all I got, Braden. Did you have anything else to
add? Not really. Love Tommy Edman. Paul Goldschmidt's doing good. Call Jordan Walker back up. He's starting to rake again in AAA. Finally finding his confidence. But yeah, not really much else to add. Win 10 out of the next 14, and we'll be in a decent spot.
Yeah, and there you guys have it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Cardinals fans can find this. You can follow Braden on Twitter at Show Me Baseball. You can follow me if you want. It's at Show Me FB for Show Me Football. And if you like football stuff, then you can stick around for that as well. But with all that being said, we'll see you guys in the next one.